wonder if we can all take our seats. So before we begin, I think I would just like to thank our Gauteng Junior Commissioners for such an incredible performance. It was Rifila, Sanele, Karabo, and Batoko. Maybe we can give them a round of applause for that powerful performance. So just to introduce myself, my name is Melanie Lou Dugmore. I'm going to be the moderator today, and I'm going to try and be as strict as Terence was. So I'll be waving my hand at our panelists and our participants if you go over time. I think I'd like to begin, before I introduce our key panelists, to just give a background to why we are here today. We saw an incredible showcase of a lot of work that is being done. And we know that our president in his State of the Nation address acknowledged the need to address violent crime. He actually acknowledged it as a society-wide problem that needed a society-wide response. He further acknowledged that gender-based violence is an urgent national priority, his words, and that government, including men and boys, will be active champions in the struggle against gender-based violence. He went on, and I think this is quite critical, to commit his administration, not to put you on the spot, Mr. Secretary, to reducing violent crime by half in the next 10 years, to scaling up victim empowerment initiatives such as Tutuzela centers and increasing the number of sexual offences at courts. And he also agreed to finalize and implement a national strategy against gender-based violence. We also saw that our national minister, in his budget speech, also made a commitment in that he acknowledged the work of his department in development of the white paper on safety and security, which really is about crime and violence prevention, why we are here today. And the white paper, I think, for the first time, tries to integrate a range of pillars which deal with various aspects of violence and crime. First of all, acknowledging that violence is not just physical violence, it also includes emotional violence, neglect, and other forms of violence. And I think quite critically, when we look at the pillars of the white paper, there's an acknowledgement of what a prevention agenda needs to achieve, starting in the home, looking at schools, looking at our communities, and looking at society-wide responses. So the white paper, and you will hear more about that approach from the Secretary, really reflects what we are talking about today, an integrated approach to safety and crime and violence prevention. I think the other thing that was quite critical in the Minister's budget speech was a statement that crime and violence prevention should be an apex priority across government, that all threes of governance should be involved in ensuring a coordinated response. So these commitments, together with many other policy interventions which we're going to hear about today, including the Integrated Urban Development Framework, recognize the urgency to address all forms of crime and violence in order to build safer communities. But the critical question which I think we want to talk about today is how do we do that? We have policies, we have strategies, and we've been at this for a long, long time, since 1996 with the National Crime Prevention Strategy, but we still haven't got it right. So today we really want to have a very rigorous and constructive discussion to address how we move forward to integrate towards an integrated approach to crime and violence prevention. So I just need to apologize for Mr. Themba Fosi unfortunately could not be here. He was called to an urgent meeting with the Minister. He is the Deputy Director General in the Department of Cooperative Government, and we were looking forward to him talking about the work of DCOG, and particularly the IUDF, which acknowledges crime prevention and safety as a cross-cutting issue in cities' governance. So I'm going to just explain how the program is going to work today. We're going to start off with our two panelists, which I'll introduce now. We're then going to invite up some other participants and key stakeholders to join this discussion. Once they have given us their inputs, we'd like to open up the discussion to the floor, and then we will give our key panelists an opportunity to respond, and then we will have a performance by our incredible youth commissioners again, and before we close. So there will be an opportunity for input and participation from you all. So I'd like to begin by introducing Mr. Alvin Rapier, who's the Secretary for Police Service, which was, as I indicated, responsible for the development of the white paper on safety and security, and he will talk to us as to how we move forward towards implementation. On my right is also Nwabisa Shai, who is a specialist scientist at the Gender Health and Research Unit at the Medical Research Council. Today she's representing what many of you know as the Dialogue Forum, which has been renamed to be called the Violence Prevention Forum, which was a civil society initiative which started in 2015. And it brings together academics, local and international organizations, various government departments such as education, women, youth, and persons with disabilities, health, social development, DPME, and National Treasury. And the primary work that that forum does is to try and build strong, healthy, intersectoral relationships to catalyze action and support to building evidence-based programs to prevent violence in South Africa. So I would like to hand over to you to start. Just to remind the panelists, you have 5 minutes. I'll be waving my hands frantically. And then I will hand over to Mr. Rapier. Thank you.
No, I don't want to sit. I'd be disappointing someone if I decide to sit, so I'm not going to sit. So good afternoon, friends and colleagues. Thank you for being here. It means that you are acknowledging that we are faced with a serious challenge in our country, a catastrophe of unabatingly high levels of violence. This has huge costs and impacts in our society. Children who experience neglect and abuse or witness violence are at an increased risk of either experiencing negative health and behavioral outcomes or perpetrating violence themselves or being victimized again. So this impact in our society is such that a child doesn't only get beaten once, doesn't get abused once, a girl doesn't get raped once or a boy beaten once, but they experience violence repeatedly throughout their lives. And this echoes across our society. So let us think about what this really means. A child raped, beaten, not once and not twice perhaps, throughout their lives. Our work is really cut out for us. We cannot fight or police our way out of this situation that we are in. This is a challenge that requires intelligent, proven, and evidence-based solutions. But here's the good news. For the first time, at least for some young researchers like us, violence has been prioritized at the highest level of office in South Africa. For example, President Ramaphosa called a summit in 2018, signed a declaration demonstrating his commitment to violence prevention, which also includes the national strategic plan that is currently being developed on gender-based violence and femicide. We also have the 2016 White Paper on Safety and Security that acknowledges the need for an integrated, multi-sectoral approach to crime and violence prevention. So our presence here today shows that we recognize that South Africa needs something big to happen, and that we need people who think big to get it done. So what we need is a concerted and well-thought-out program of violence prevention for our country. Fortunately, this work has already begun, as Melanie has already introduced our forum. So in 2015, an ambitious collective of committed colleagues established a collaborative group where we are promoting the scaling up of evidence-based programs on violence prevention in South Africa. So we come from government, from business, from civil society, and the research community. Yes, we call ourselves now the Violence Prevention Forum, and we are better known as the Dialogue Forum. And we receive a lot of support from intergovernmental institutions and organizations like UNICEF and development partners like GIZ. And we also have made contributions to the interim steering committee on gender-based violence and femicide. So as the Violence Prevention Forum, we have learned quite a few lessons that are very important on violence prevention. That we won't succeed to prevent violence through a reliance on incarcerations and punishing of perpetrators. That increases in police expenditure and the number of police officers don't lead to better policing or a satisfied population, or necessarily help to reduce serious violent crimes. And to see a lower violence levels in South Africa, there has to be a radical shift in how state resources are spent in our country. That we need more investment in programs that are preventive and that are social focused. And what we also need to also note is that there is another set of good news, that we do have an untapped gold mine of interpersonal violence prevention programs in our country. And these programs have shown us that it is really important that we up our game. So this is what I want to share with you. So lend me an ear, just focus on me, just for a couple of minutes. Because I want to share with you a dream that I have for our country where we don't have violence. Colleagues, I have a dream of a South Africa where 5-year-olds and friends, Mpho and Thandiwe from Deep Sloot, who before they begin school, they won't be kidnapped, raped, or murdered as they are playing Black Makpatile in their neighborhood. I have a dream of a South Africa where 10-year-old Aviwe Nyanga in the Western Cape is growing up in a home where he won't be abused because his guardians are using positive discipline strategies to guide him away from destructive behavior. And he doesn't resort to fighting to solve problems with his friends. So what can we start doing from today in order to get this dream, which I hope is going to be our dream, to be realized in our lives? After 4 years of deep discussions and research, we as the Violence Prevention Forum have identified what works in violence prevention. These are programs that are homegrown, and we know that they work to prevent violence. We have community-based programs that are offered by organizations like Ububele to impart positive parenting skills and to address effects of trauma around families in Alex. I hope you know Alex is just off of Sentin. We also have 7 passes, and they're working in a rural community in George, somewhere in the Western Cape, and they're running a series of positive parenting programs that are implemented through home visits to strengthen the bond between young mothers and their infants. And at the same time, they're making sure that children have safe, stimulating after-school programs and that young people are supported to study and to find work. The main point is that if we as government, civil society, and the research community, as well as development partners and other supporters in this work, if we know what works well, then we need to start doing more of it. All we need to do is to take the lessons from these evidence-based programs and packages and start implementing them. We can no longer afford to wait. Thank you.
Thank you. That was excellent timing. So, Anwubisa, I think you've made the case on why we need violence prevention, why it works, and that we have the resources and the capacities in our own country and to actually do that. When I say resources, we have the skills and we have the programs. So the next question, I think, and we put Mr. Rapia on the hot seat, is really then, what is government doing to take the violence prevention agenda seriously? And how do we move forward towards an integrated, intersectoral approach as advocated by the white paper?
I will disappoint someone and I will talk sitting. I think instead of ending with a dream, I will start with a dream before I answer your question. I dream of a South Africa wherein we have real economic growth and violent crimes are an obstacle to investment in our country. Right now, the government said they are opening up for people like me who are 55 and above to get our early retirement. But the reluctance in some of the public servants to do that is that if they want to go and invest, will their investment be secure, that they will be able to live in the future? My dream, it's a dream wherein you will find investors when they come to our countries, they can go to any of our townships, our villages, without fear that they're going to be robbed, without fear that their spouses are going to be kidnapped and raped. And it will be a country wherein the three spheres of government will work very closely with each other. And that is at the center of our white paper on safety and security. That it needs the whole of government, the whole of society, including business, of course. People who are reluctant to invest in our countries, they have to fully participate. I remember at some point in Johannesburg, we used to have the Business Against Crime Center, where these cameras, people were trained that they can identify somebody who wants to commit crime before it happens. And they will contact the police, and the police react quickly, and they will arrest. And during that period, where business invested a lot of money in Johannesburg, crime was up to zero in the city center. It moved out of the city center, and we found a lot of people now starting to come back to Johannesburg city center. Can you do it now? You can't. But what happened was we started seeing maybe business as a threat to government. And we started talking bad about the involvement of business in terms of supporting us in the fight against crime. So I foresee that South Africa, wherein business now comes back and invests in fighting crime together with government. I foresee a situation wherein if we are working together, there will be high level of trust in our criminal justice system. Because currently you don't have the trust in our criminal justice system. Especially our South African police service, the levels of trust are so low. But it's not only the police that can instill confidence in our society. The main issue which makes people to continue to get involved in crime and violence is that if they see that there's no consequence, then they will continue to deal with that. So our focus in making sure that it's the whole of society, the whole of government, is that there must be consequence for anyone who commits a crime. And if society is involved in terms of identifying culprits and assisting our police in dealing with the crime and violence, it will actually address that issue. And we will find that there is now confidence in our criminal justice systems. Violent crime actually is eating a lot of our resources for social services. If you go to Tembisa Hospital over a weekend, you'll find there's lots of people who are lying there in casualty with stab wounds, machete wounds, gunshots. And that in itself, we should be having people going to hospitals because they are sick, not because somebody has assaulted them. It will assist in that way. So we developed the white paper on safety and security, which came as a result of our analysis of the 1998 white paper on safety and security and the National Crime Prevention Strategy. And we realized that there are some areas that needs to be beefed up. We actually ended up with two white papers, the white paper on policing and then white paper on safety and security, which actually emphasize that all of us are in this together. I will end there.
I'm sorry, Mr. Secretary. I didn't mean to cut you off like that, but you leave more time for our participants. So I think we heard something very important from your presentation as well, from Nwabisa's, about a whole of society approach. And so what we've decided to do, and obviously this is not an exhaustive list, but we have tried to identify key sectors or people working in key sectors to ask them to join the panel and really give us their perspective. So I'm going to introduce them so that you don't have to take your time to do that, but if I can ask you to make your way up to the stage. So in no particular order, I think we're all familiar with Botsoko Selomo, our Gauteng Junior Police Commissioner, who was part of the performance. And really, I think I'm not putting words into your mouth, but we really thought it's really important not to talk for children or behalf of children, but let them speak for themselves. And so we look forward to your input. Then we have to his left, Mr. Hena Ampofa Anti. I hope I pronounced that correctly. No? And he is from Sonke Gender Justice, which most of us know, as an NGO which does extensive work with men and young men in particular. And he's going to talk to us about their work, but in particular, I think the disproportionate impact of violence on men and young men in particular, and how you see their role in the crime and violence prevention agenda. And then we have Advocate Brenda Madumisa, who is from the Intersectoral Women's Movement Against Gender-Based Violence, and is representing the Interim Steering Committee on GBCP and Femicide. And really, we heard a bit about the National Strategic Plan to tackle gender-based violence and femicide. I think we're interested in hearing about how that aligns with the white paper and other initiatives like the IUDF in terms of bringing about an integrated approach to addressing crime and violence prevention. And then lastly, to our far right, my far right, is Ms. Sandra van Rensburg from Slum Dwellers International. I think Mr. Rapia highlighted the issue of a whole of society approach, and a key pillar of the white paper, both as a system requirement and as a theme, is the role of communities. And we're looking forward to hearing your perspective about effective participation of communities and marginalized groups and what that actually means as we move forward in addressing a prevention agenda. So I'm going to actually hand over. I'm just going to work along the line, if that's okay. Sorry, and just to remind you, please, you have 5 minutes.
All right. Dumelang, Sanbonani. Good afternoon. 5 minutes, I don't think will do justice, but we're going to try to take you through a journey quickly that started many years ago in 1994, when we all believed that there is a new dawn in 1994 and that things were going to change for the better for almost all of us in this country. 25 years later, what we discussed in 1994, we're still discussing in 2019. And things have gotten even worse for women in this country, black women in particular. A lot of NGOs in the past 10 years did the work to highlight the scourge of violence against women and children, and almost everyone ignored what was going on. It was not an issue because it's a weaker sex, we don't give a shit. And pardon my French as we go on. Because it's women, we are not going to bother about what they go through. So they will see to finish. And we did see to finish last year, 2018, when we decided to take to the streets as women of this country to say enough is enough on violence against women and children. And the difference this time was that we decided to do the work and graft ourselves. So we go for this much, and we have the 24 demands that we want from government, and government must act on them. If you recall, for those of you who witnessed that the marches in the 9 provinces, in Pretoria, government had made it clear that we would like the president to come and receive the memo. And they thought we were playing. So they decided not to bring the president, they bring a minister. We said, no, we are not leaving until the president comes to receive the memo. The president arrived around 9 at night, and we were still there at the union buildings. And then he understood the seriousness of what we were dealing with, right? And the 24 demands were very exhaustive. You couldn't fault what was expected out of the 24 demands because it required from all of us, the 58.8 million South Africans, to play their part in preventing gender-based violence. 58.8 million South Africans. It's not a women's issue. It's not a woman who is staying in Houghton or in Alex or in Diepsloot's issue. It's all of us to make a difference and prevent gender-based violence. Out of the 24 demands, one of the demands was that the president must host a summit on gender-based violence for the first time. We did that 1st and 2nd of November. Out of that summit came out the declaration. A declaration that you and if I ask the question today of how many of us know the contents of that declaration, I might be surprised, right? But it's a document that is out there that is supposed to guide all of us on how we engage in changing norms and practices, changing our attitude, changing how we relate to women as men. That declaration only got signed this year when the president opened a sexual offences court in Boysens. And as we speak today, the steering committee that we are part of has released the first draft of the NSP, National Strategic Plan. Something that NGOs have been calling for the last 15 years, and nothing was being done. The difference, and I'm going to emphasize on the difference, is that we are at a point where we have taken the decision as civil society that we're going to do the work. We are not going to delay us. We believe that this is important, it's urgent. We're going to demonstrate that it's important, and we'll do the work. By the time you come as government with how government works in terms of bureaucracy and the APPs, we would have done the work. And then you can put it in your system and not delay us, right? So there is urgency around you. So when you declare that gender-based violence is a national crisis, everything that you do in this country has to demonstrate that. Has to. Now, we're pushing that every day, as government, you are not going to talk in silos. We're going to force you to coordinate your activities. We're going to force you to talk to each other because the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. We are not accepting that because then we're given excuses why things cannot get done. Right? Secretariat tells us we don't have enough resources. The minister tomorrow announces we've got the budget of 450 million. We are going to have rape kits at the police stations. So we did the exercise because you saw it on carte blanche, right? There are no rape kits. So we went to police stations Monday and Tuesday just to test what the National Commissioner was saying. And we went back. You are lying. There are no rape kits. Right? So we go out, when you say something to us as government, whether it's private sector, or we hold ourselves accountable for what we say. So we don't ask of you something that we're not going to ask for from ourselves, right? So when you say to us that this is what we're going to do, we hold you to it and we go and test it and confirm it. And that's the work that we're going to continue to do. We will have an NSP for the first time in this country that is multi-sectoral. That every single one of us has got a role to play, and this government is going to let us down. Because if they do, then the streets will not be only 10,000 women that came. It will be the rest of the South African women and the men who believe that gender-based violence must end.
Good afternoon/evening to everyone. I'm not quite sure how to follow after that incredibly passionate address. And just to address some of what my colleague is saying, I feel that the fact that women have to put their bodies on the line and sit outside the union buildings until 9 o'clock to get a response for what is a constitutional right to be free from violence I think it says a lot about where we've come, which is unfortunate. But having colleagues like this who are so fired up gives me some inspiration. So today I'm here to talk about why we need to engage men and boys. So Sonke's vision is a nation in which there are happy, peaceful, collaborative relationships between all people in South Africa, and that this can contribute towards the development of just and democratic societies. And as far as the issue of gender-based violence goes, it's not just an issue that affects some women, but it's an issue in which we have to address from an intersectional approach. And by what I mean by that is that we are not just trying to combat or erase or dismantle sexism and patriarchy, but not all people are affected by gender-based violence in the same way. We must also address entrenched systems of racism, of homophobia, of transphobia, of xenophobia. When we're calling for an end to gender-based violence, we're not just talking about South African women and girls. We're also talking about migrants and refugee women. We're also talking about the LGBTQ+ community. We're also talking about sex workers. So when we're talking about gender-based violence, we need an approach that is sensitive to the vulnerability that certain groups, particularly marginalized and disadvantaged groups in in our community and in our society face, and any national strategic plan that we have on that must be responsive to those different sets of vulnerability and the different forms of oppression that are at work. Because ultimately, gender-based violence is an expression or an exertion of power dynamics, and those power dynamics play themselves out in a multitude of different ways. So why is it important to engage with men and boys? Well, as I've said, because gender-based violence is an exertion of power, we need to address male privilege. That means we need to address the way in which men navigate through the world and the things that they do cause harm, cause discrimination, and cause oppression for women and girls in society. As Steve Biko said, the primary obligation of white people in addressing racism is to call other white people out on their white privilege and how what they do sustains racial subordination. Similarly, when we're talking about gender-based violence, the role of men and boys is to elevate the voices of women, to not take up space, to listen when they need to listen, to learn from those who are on the receiving end of violence and discrimination, and to call out other men on the ways that we perpetuate toxic masculinity. And so the work that Sonke does focuses on trying to engage men and boys in communities in different parts of South Africa. They have door-to-door campaigns where they go to shebeens, they go to communities, they hold workshops and gatherings of men and boys, and they try to teach them how toxic and destructive gender norms, gender expectations, and gender roles contribute towards gender-based violence. And another reason why this is important is because, as my colleagues have mentioned before, Mabisa, I think she mentioned the fact that policing alone is not sufficient. And before coming here yesterday, I asked my sister the question of why it's important to engage men and boys. And what she told me is that even she, as a really independent woman, someone who has a strong socioeconomic status, who does not need to rely on her husband, should something happen at home, her first response would not be to call the police. And I think that speaks volumes to the fact that intimate partner violence and domestic violence and gender-based violence, it takes place within our private spaces and homes. And so our interventions, ultimately the justice system can only deal with what happens afterwards. But engaging men and boys is about creating preventative mechanisms so that men will hold each other accountable and so that they will also get rid of destructive gender norms and expectations that result in them committing acts of violence and assault against women and girls. Another thing, as far as engaging men and boys goes, is that the revolution starts at home. It starts with positive parenting. It starts with sharing household tasks with your wife or partner. And even for those who are not in a heteronormative setting, we need to think about how we treat the women in our lives. We are our sisters, aunts, colleagues, friends, family, etc. And since I'm running out of time, I just want to end with a quote. Arundhati Roy said, who is a famous Indian novelist, feminist, writer, and critical thinker, she said, and I quote, "There's really no such thing as a voiceless. There are only the deliberately silenced or the preferably unheard." We need to stop silencing women. Thank you.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to start by a quote by Marcus Talitas Cicero, open quote. "The safety of the people shall be the highest law," close quote. As the junior commissioners, our vision of safety as a national is to see the youth in South Africa participating in programs that will not lead them to doing bad things, being safe in our country. Our country being safe where people can walk freely at any time. Not being scared of anything, but freely. Well, the stakeholders that we are working with is the South African Police Service, the Department of Community Safety, the GIZ, and the different stakeholders. Well, we are eradicating crime through the anti-crime generation. Because as youth, we know what the youth is doing, the kind of bad things that they are participating in. So the main reason behind our program is that as youngsters, we know what the other youngsters are thinking, because of now, we can't take an elder at a youth program and we say he is an MC or is a leader there, but we need youth because they know each other, they can empower each other, their thinking level, their knowledge is on the same level. According to the National Youth Crime Prevention that was held last year, 2018, by the 28th of June, the former Deputy Minister of South African Police said, majority of cells in South African prisons are filled with youth. What should we do? We should change the generation of youngsters that are still here so that when they grow up, they can grow up knowing the consequences of crime. Ka Sepedi ba re pinyana ge e re ping, e bone pinyana e kgolo. So as they will be growing up, they will be showing the new generation on the right things to do. And once they know that, South Africa will be saved. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I represent Shack Dwellers International, or Slum Dwellers, depending on which continent you are. The views I'm expressing here today is not of Shack Dwellers. It is of the people on the ground. When I was asked to come and do a presentation or partake in the discussion, I did some research and I called leaders in all 9 provinces, and I requested them to tell me about the crime issues, which is not normal practice. We would call a meeting and have a whole 2-day discussion about it, but because of time constraints, I had to do it telephonically. In Gauteng, the leader of Gauteng told me, prevention of crime should happen in my house. The mere fact that I'm stealing electricity from Eskom is a crime. Why am I complaining about crime out there when I'm a criminal? And this is a woman in Orange Farm. So what I'm telling you now comes out of the mouths of people. Orange Farm has over 750 streets. 3 are named. When there's crime, when there's any emergency service, ambulances cannot reach people. The youth has embarked on naming a street naming exercise. The city of Joburg tells them it's illegal. It's unlawful. They said, but we've been living here for 30 years. You haven't bothered to do anything. Now we're trying to do it. So it's tough out there. In Northwest, Okasi, the oldest township, the community member told me, the leader of the Northwest said, darkness breeds crime. Ask Eskom to fix our mast lights. Ask Eskom to replace the bulbs. That's all we're asking. We're not asking for extra policing. We're not asking for anything. Just ask them to give us light, because darkness breeds crime. The woman in Durban, Kwamashu, she said she heard a report on the TV or radio today about the thousands and thousands of vacant positions of social practitioners. So whether it's nurses, social workers, she said the drugs are so rife and parents they're at their wits' end what to do with their children. And there's not a single social worker available in the entire KwaMashu to help. And if anybody's from KZN here, they know the size of KwaMashu. Or if you're watching Zolo, you'll know the size of KwaMashu. But these are the grassroots concerns. And my brief to them was, don't give me the problems, give me the solutions. So the light is the solution. The one mother said, I'm a thief. I need to change my thinking because I'm stealing electricity. I can't look at other people. The other one is saying, employ more social practitioners, social workers, so that they can help us with our kids. The other community member in Galeshewe in the Northern Cape says, stop trying to criminalize the boy walking down the street with 10 grams of dagga. Find out where he got it. Go for the big ones. That's why the prisons are full of youth petty criminals. Go after the big guns. If you want to work on alcoholism, you know where SAB is. These are the people's words. You can go and find SAB, you can go and find distillers, but you don't know where the drugs are coming from. Stop filling our prisons with petty criminals. The other issue was the youth don't have recreational facilities. All the public open spaces in the townships are barren. Barren. It's now been sold off to developers. So it's a hot spot for crime. It's been there for 20, 30, 40 years. But no one has bothered. No municipality, led by no party, has bothered to develop it. Put in a park, a gardens, anything. So people are saying, give our youth spaces. And I read some books, and all the research is done in the inner city, open spaces. But what about the people on the peripheries? What about the people in Orange Farm? What about the people in Sunrise, Ekurhuleni? They're nearly in the Free State. They don't have these facilities. Another one was cleaning. You know, when a place is clean, people's entire psychic change. So people feel in informal settlement, dirt breeds crime. So in a dirty space, why should we bother? So that was community policing forums. People were saying it's very important to them, but there's no community participation when these forums are established. With the result, communities don't respect the forum, police don't respect the forum. So if the community participation can be really come from the ground and be inclusive, truly inclusive, then it will gain the respect it deserves. But without an effective community policing forum, no other establishment will be able to be effective in the community and fighting crime. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for that. I think that opens up the scene quite well. So I'd like now to give you an opportunity to make comments or raise questions. Just to remind people why we are here today, it's really, as I think we've heard, is a call for action. And we've been talking about integrated approaches, intersectorial approaches, the intersectionality of the work that we do, but how do we move forward? So we're going to take 3 questions, and then if we have time, we'll maybe take another 3 more before we give our panelists an opportunity to wrap up. So if I can just have a show of hands. I've got Refilwe here in the front. Okay, I've got someone there. Is there a 3rd hand? And here. Okay. It's okay, you can make it. You only got 3 minutes for the speech. Just turn around.
Okay. Good day to you all leaders. As you see me here, I am the SAPS Junior Commissioner, the Gauteng Deputy Provincial. Well, as I'm here, I just want to say that to you, my leaders here, I'm not here to waste your time, but to implement on liberation. Actually, sorry to be using my phone. I mean, we're working the 4th Industrial Revolution as young people. Okay, just... Oh, sorry. Okay. I remember when Mr. Matamela Ramaphosa, president, said to me that, young woman, you are of power, because I've been sharing unfolding aspects of the revolution within different societies. As you see me here today, I'm a leader, so I don't believe in rules, but I believe in principles. As Tom Ferris said, that whenever you see yourself in the side of majority, it's time to pause and reflect. What I believe in is that the youth is the future, and the future is the youth. The youth and the future will always be linked, because none can exist in the absence of another. A nation that fails to invest in the future of its youth is a doomed nation. The youth is a significant symbol of strength and persistence. The youth of the 1976 has clearly demonstrated that the capabilities of the power of unity with a purpose changed the socio-political landscape in South Africa. They should be remembered as the young lions, the brave and courageous ones that rose. The youth of 2019 should take some time in this month to meditate an example the youth of 1976 has set for them. We should enjoy the certain privileges in this country. And what I've said to Matamela is that they call this a rainbow nation. I don't believe in that. Let's break the rainbow and build a nation. Again, sorry. As I'm an inspiring social and political consciousness writer into poetry, and I write short stories on politics, and the representative of young people, I would like to say that African leadership is youth exclusive. Please listen to us. Give young people a chance, because we are the liberators of this revolution. We are the chance, actually. We are the future. We are the direction of this revolution that we see today. There is no 4th Industrial Revolution without us. If we ask a South African police member that, what is the latest trend, what is the latest dance trend that young people do? Uzoti igwaragwara. No, it's not, actually. It's because why? They don't want to listen to young people. Listen to young people so that we can all engage in. And again, I'm saying the African leadership is youth exclusive. Let's break the rainbow and build a nation. Aluta.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Thank you for all the inputs on the panel today. I'd just like to react or respond to one particular thing that became striking for me. So, this idea that consequences are key to crime reduction. For me, it sparked this thought that in a country with such high inequality, what's a consequence? Jail, where jail might be so much better condition than the conditions of your daily life. So, I don't know, our odds of then overcoming this challenge come down to building inclusive cities, building inclusive economies as well, because it's also a question of economy, it's also a question of access to resources, and stuff like that. So I'd just like us to reflect on that one, whether it's true for us in a South African context that consequences are key to crime reduction. What are consequences when I have nothing? Yeah.
Thank you. There was, oh, yeah. Natasha, are you coming to the front?
I was asking Ms. Stand in the front. Thank you so much for the input that the panel has just shared with us here today. As everyone was talking and everyone was saying the various views, the one thing that sparked a debate amongst us or a conversation was economic emancipation in South Africa has made us spectators, and therefore there's no one to take care of what is happening in the household. The parents are working, the children get to do whatever. When the parents come home, we are settled down and we're no longer doing what we were doing when they're not there. The nice thing about then, you had a granny or whoever who would beat you up. Sorry that it was violence, but it kept us in control because you knew that I can't go sit somewhere and do what is not right and then come home at 7 o'clock. Somebody needed me to account where was I coming from. So as a country, we expect somebody to come from outside, come and fix the internal issues, then leave us to say now everything is back to control. But a parent that doesn't want to discipline, but they expect a social worker to come and discipline. The two don't work together. So the minute that government is working so much and doing so many things, the only thing that is making these plans fail, it's the lack of South Africans being part of the plans. We are standing on the sideline and we are watching what is going to happen. So with all the things that are happening, South Africans are here to say, not in my space, not in my country. So in Xhosa I was saying, ubuzwe bethu. So I don't know how to say it in English. Ubuzwe bakho, you feel proud of your country, you don't allow bad things to happen. And as a citizen, you should be saying, not in my space, not in front of me. So we must just remove the element of a spectatorship or viewers and get communities to come and lend a hand to these things that are happening or these plans that are being implemented. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take another round of just 3 questions. And I think, thank you so much for the input, but can I be a bit provocative and emphasize the urgency which we've heard from our panelists? And I think maybe to shift the discussion to really put the question as, what do we need to do? What are the bold steps? What needs to happen for us to move forward? Because we've been talking, as we've heard, since 1994, and we are not making progress. I think the last time I counted, if we count the white paper on families, the National Action Plan on Violence Against Women and Children, the Integrated Social Crime Prevention Strategy, I can carry on and on and on. We have the policies, we understand the issues and the problems, with Nawisa said. How do we move forward to integrated implementation? What needs to happen? I'm sorry if I'm preempting you, but if I can ask one of our respondents maybe to take us back to that urgent question. So I think we have one here.
Okay. I don't know whether I should. Let me just, at least it's better here. Good afternoon. My name is Pali Sakadi. I'm a councillor at the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa. ICASA, the one that's still dealing with data must fall, and many other problems. I'm also responsible for cybersecurity. I think there's one actor that I'm not seeing here and I'm not hearing a voice from. It's the private sector. Are they here? Are they interested? Are they not the beneficiaries through your ADTs and the security consumerism that comes with the plight of not having sufficient security in our complexes, in our environment? So it's becoming a huge concern that it is the problem of the African child to take care of himself, whilst the census tells us that there's no father figure in South Africa. Fathers are missing. It's confirmed 2011, we could not find and trace the father figure into families. And we are not, as a feminist, of course, I am not saying families depend on fathers, but we do need a systematic way to deal with what we call community. So I'm missing private sector, whether we call them as part of the strategic plan or action plan that we might be having for the future. It's worrying, but also one appreciates the international conversations we're having with GIZ in working with South Africans, and it's been quite one of those programs that one has been following. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, or can I give an opportunity to our panelists to respond? Because we need to start. Oh, sorry, right at the back there. I can just see you with the lights. You can come to the front.
No, I will talk from the back. I think I'll be fine. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm Bongumusa Zono from eThekwini Municipality. I think, raise maybe three things, two at the most. I think there is a part that we need to deal with. I mean, I'm from local government, and my colleague from the Civil Secretariat mentioned the need of coordination among the spheres of government. And I think the cities, I mean, especially those that are represented here, have a longest journey on crime prevention. Not through security, not through metropolis. I'm talking about eThekwini, Tshwane, Johannesburg, Nelson Mandela, and other metros. We had a long journey, a 20 years journey. And we have been dealing with these challenges using our core mandate of being the only arm of government that delivers services. So that's where we feel there's a strength. And we are not saying that government mustn't put money in police, but we are saying put money in services, because it is through services that we are able to create opportunities. And then we deal with fundamental causes of crime rather than reacting to crime. Of course, I mean, it's a longest day that we need to take around that. But we appreciate the start that have been made, but we feel it's not sufficient. Now, the other part that we also need is the coordination, not only of our own actions, but the coordination in the spaces where we are, including the communities and the structures that we create. Now, on the structures we create, I think that we also, as government, got a challenge that we need to deal with. We got the structures under Drug and Substance Abuse Act, local drug action committees. We got the structures under the transport committees, structures under the health committees, structures under the World Paper on Safety and Security, community safety forums, structures under Systems Act, World Safety Committees. Where on earth are we going to find people going through all these structures to deliver one thing, a safe city where everybody prosper? So we need to think, we got a lot of work to do around that. Lastly, I think we acknowledge the voices of our sisters and we are in the same pain. But I want to confirm one more thing, is that it's not only the cry for South Africa. African mayors in 2017, meeting in eThekwini under their own platform called Africa Forum for Urban Safety, agreed that it was high time that all mayors in Africa look at women's safety. And then they equally agreed that this is year 2019, learning exchange of African mayors will focus on safety of women in African cities, and it shall be in Durban from the 10th of November to the 12th of November as part of the UCLG Congress in eThekwini. Now, prior preparation for that has started, and we are looking at about 10 country reports to see how other cities in 10 countries are dealing with women's safety in their own cities, either in public spaces, either in private spaces. I think that's what I wanted to raise. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We're going to take one more. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't have a comment. I have a simple question. My name is Martin Weiss. I'm the GIZ country director for South Africa, Lesotho, and Eswatini. I arrived just about 1 year ago, and one of the first, I think this was actually my first public event I attended, was the launch of the white paper last year. And I was extremely impressed about the scope of this event, about the energy I felt, and about the willingness to really tackle now the issues of safety and security in that country based on this very holistic approach as lined out in the white paper. Now I have the question to the panel, and I'm sure some of you have also attended this event. Do you see now, 1 year after the launch, any obstacles with implementing the white paper? If yes, what kind of obstacles are there? And maybe even you could elaborate on how you would remove those obstacles, if you see any there.
Thank you for that. So I think we are approaching the end of our program. So I think particularly the last question as well as some of the comments, it's a good opportunity before me to hand over to the panelists to maybe address some of those issues or respond to some of the inputs. So if I could ask you to be brief and to the point, please, so that we can give everyone an opportunity to speak. Secretary, would you like to go first and answer that question directly?
Since I have the mic, maybe I must just take advantage of that. I think on the issue of the summit, if you recall, after the summit, we had provincial summits that followed, where there is a number of strategies that came about. One of the challenges that we are having in terms of implementing the white paper is, and I will also touch on what the gentleman from eThekwini raised. It's when you go to municipalities, you are told there is no budget. And we are not looking for budget to go and look after criminals. When you deal with issues of safety, it's simple thing, grass must be cut. There should be lightning. The informal settlement, as my colleagues has indicated, need to have street names, and they should be numbered. And you shouldn't have too narrow spaces between those informal settlements, because if there's any, even fire, if somebody or the police are trying, or an emergency car which is coming to assist somebody who has been injured or somebody who is sick, they can't even access those areas. And we are saying in the IDPs, the integrated development plans, safety should feature very high in there. But it's about the infrastructure and the basic needs that the people require. If you have a situation wherein somebody must walk a kilometer to go to the toilet in the middle of the night, what do you expect? Those are the issues that we are saying need to happen. I think with the intervention in the Western Cape, there's an opportunity there. And people in the intervention in the Western Cape, they're only focusing on the soldiers. We had a summit, I'm sorry, we always have this summit. We call it a summit. It was a workshop. Just before the deployment of the intervention teams, where the CPFs and some of the civil society organizations participated in that. And there is a plan now to say, how do we make sure that we normalize the situation in the Western Cape? Because this is just stabilizing to say, stop the murders, stop the violence, and so on. But after that, we must go back to normality and make sure that we can sustain that. And I think it's an area that if we can focus all the strategies that we have, we can start implementing those strategies in that intervention. And it's a good thing that it's happening in the Western Cape, this intervention. Because it's going to challenge us to say, are we really serious when we say don't politicize the issue of crime or not? Because that is then a province that is not managed by the national ruling party. It's that, and we need to actually deal with those issues. I just want to talk about the issue about the youth being the future. I'm so excited about this program of the junior commissioners. It's actually instilling this responsibility of the youth to say, we are in charge of this country. We should be leading. And they're the ones that understand what's happening there. They know who is bringing drugs into the schools. And this is a very good initiative that we are initiating. And the national commissioner, he treats these kids as real commissioners. And they are our ambassadors in all the schools. And we will need to replicate this. And if we can have in every school in our country, have people like you, not just representing national. I think that should be the movement, to make sure that every school in South Africa also have the ambassadors to deal with crime. The issue of consequences, I'll just comment on that and then I give others a chance. There is law in this country that need to be observed to start with. Most people think that when you go to the prison, it's nice, you get 4 meals and all those things. Just taking away somebody's freedom, it's good enough to make sure that he's no more going to see the friends that he used to see. He doesn't have the freedom to do as he or she pleases when he is inside the prison. But the most important thing is that when that person comes out of that prison, they should have been rehabilitated so that they contribute positively to the society. And for the first time in my work with the JCPS cluster, there's an agreement that we have to work together and we have to develop what we call a joint plan of the JCPS cluster. And work, it's moving on that to make sure that happens. There are other issues that I want to raise, the bold things that we are introducing, which are, if there's still time, I will raise them. Thanks.
Two things, and I didn't get your name. Natasha. In the NSP that is being consulted upon, is going in all the 9 provinces, we're looking at new working time arrangements. Who decided that work starts at 7 or 8 in this country? Who decided? And who decided that work must stop at 5 or at 4? So we have to make decisions, because if I have to wake up at 4 in the morning to be ready to be at Sandton at 7 o'clock, and I leave my children unattended because I have to catch 3 taxis, that's the problem, right? So that's what we are proposing in the NSP, new working time arrangements. Private sector, kicking and screaming, they'll come to the party, right? And they have been attending a workshop, so to the lady from ICASA, they tend to bring women to the discussions. So the chief executives of these big companies don't attend the meetings, they bring the women to these meetings. So we push differently, right? We write directly to CEOs and get a commitment from them on what their stand is on gender-based violence and femicide, right? So we're not giving them the chance to breathe. And it requires all of us to do that. Because if we all look the other way, all of us, things are going to continue to go wrong. And we are going to ask ourselves the question, how did we get here? When we know how we got here, because we kept quiet. when we knew that the man next door is raping her daughter, and we all keep quiet. When at work, your colleague sexually harasses another woman, you keep quiet. As HR, you cover it up, right? So it requires tenacity and vigilance from all of us. It cannot be that it is made a woman's problem, as I said. So we are advocating for those radical changes in the NSP, because we now understand the structural drivers of violence against women and girls in this country. The economy is part of it, right? Quickly, the last point around I think the question raised around consequences. And ask ourselves the questions, and I'm going to tie it to what you raised on what might stop the white paper from being implemented. As long as we continue to defer to political parties and think that decision, because you see, we have this stop and start that happens in this country. A new administration comes in, it's as if there was nothing before, right? And then we start from scratch because I'm new, I don't understand why this was done before, right? That is killing and is destabilizing this country. It has to be said. The political fightings destabilizes this country. We don't move forward precisely because people are looking at, if I implement this policy today, I may not get the votes. So we are looked at through the eyes of votes all the time, not because it makes a difference for this country to succeed. So we have to change it.
Thank you.
Is it on? Okay. So I'll try and address everyone's question except for Martin's question. But I'm going to do it in this way. So I'm going to try and just give you sound bites, at least on what I anticipated in the work that the Violence Prevention Forum has at least come to understand over the past 4 years. So this is not credit to me, it's credit to all of us that have been working on this process. So I just want to say that on the question of investing in young people, it's a brilliant question, and we always talk about it and we always say it, but the responses are always unclear. And I want to just say that one of the best solutions, if you want to invest in young people, is to address the social norms that make it possible to perpetrate violence or to tolerate it and accept it. And this can be done just here in South Africa, just to give you an example of those programs that I talked about that are coming out of these different civil society organizations that we are working with. And the research that we've done and the work that government has supported is that we need about 3.8 million rand over the next 3 years just to train facilitators in all 9 provinces to deliver the Sinovuyo teens and the Sinovuyo kids program on parenting. Just on the solution of parenting, addressing social norms through parenting and providing the skills where parents don't do the spectator example that our sister mentioned, but actually are part of the skills building and being capacitated to find the ways to be able to implement positive discipline. I was looking for you. Now I found you. To be able to implement positive discipline and practical solutions to answer even the question as to what do we do to replace corporal punishment in schools. That's the solution, is these social norms programs. And if we're thinking about it, another issue is that it costs about 2,600 per family to run this program. 2,600 rand per family to run this program. And if you think about it, it's a tiny investment to ask for if you want to invest in the future of these young people, those young people and the ones that come after them. It's tiny. Please talk to them. Daddy? Again. Daddy Rapi? Thank you. All right, just to then try and move quickly. Now, this is what I want us to also try and think about. The need for us to create these short-term outcomes, which I think are important for the white paper to see what progress that we are making, but at the same time, feeding into these long-term parenting programs, which we know that are going to yield results later on and not right now. So this political agenda and the political aspirations of certain individuals are the ones that, yes, they may be important for the immediate, because, yes, some of these issues and crime is serious in our country right now. So maybe we need these short-term measures. But let us start investing in parenting at least, just parenting at least. And we make sure that we put it in the mid-term strategic framework. Yes, I got it, because I'm always struggling with these terms. And make sure that violence prevention is made a priority visible on those 7 priorities, Ndadi, in every political person in this room. And not only reflect things that are just masking the problem, but face the problem head on. We are in trouble. We may be in trouble in terms of the economics, but we are feeling and living the trouble in our homes. Our children are living it in the streets, they're living it in their schools. And everything else is made to be an excuse and is about criminal behavior. It is not. It is the desperation that also is masked and also supported by the social norms that are very conservative, that really are repressive towards women and girls in this country. That's the issue that we're dealing with. And that's the issue that we need to focus on addressing. One last thing. So, the white paper, I will see our interim steering committee on gender-based violence and femicide. We need to make sure, as the existing 2 key structures, as far as I can see, that we need to promote violence prevention as a critical tool that must be funded, that must be put on the political agenda, that needs to be taken forward, and it needs to be reflected in that medium-term strategic framework as one of the key priorities. And if we do that, then we have secured funding for the next 5 years. Then we're not going to say that, no, there is no money in order for us to fund the activities that are needed. And we are talking 3.8 million for facilitators training in all provinces. We are talking of over the next 3 years, not just per year, over the next 3 years. And then we're talking 2,600 rand per family to capacitate families to be able to bring up their children in a way that is constructive, in a way that removes the violent solutions and replaces them with the soft skills of communication, empathy and understanding, and love. We often say here, we love our jobs, we love our children, we love our country. We need to show it. Us here who are here, we are in positions of influence. Let us demonstrate that we do love our country and promote the ideas, at least one, parenting, social norms programming. And I want to show you another last bit, that we are living, us as people who are in the front line, and these people are not even represented in this meeting right now. Our nurses, our educators, our doctors, our social workers, those counselors that are receiving women and girls and children who are abused and providing services to them. We are not well. We are a group of frontline people who need help. We are traumatized, not only because of the work that we're doing, not only because of the violence we face in our homes or in our communities, the history of the violence in South Africa, we can no longer ignore it, but we shouldn't make an excuse about it. What we need to know is that having what Sisi said there from ICASA, that we have put funding into security in order to make sure that we safeguard our wealth. What were we doing? We're neglecting our well-being. And we expect that we're going to have police who are going to be able to provide services in an empathetic fashion. And we think that those police are not going to resort to guns in order to solve even their own problems. And that we think that we're going to be healthy. That is not going to work. It has not worked. And the reason is that we have been putting resources in the wrong places, and we need to start investing in our children. Parenting programs can work, and they've proven to work here in our country, and they've been developed here in our country by our own organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I think that was a powerful input, and thank you for the action plan. That really was an action plan. Bilkis is listening for her implementation framework. So we're running a bit short on time because Martin Weiss is going to close. So if I'm going to ask our last three panelists to be brief before we start wrapping up. Thank you.
Okay, I want to thank my colleagues for some really interesting insights. Firstly, I want to echo what Unwabisa is saying about the fact that charity begins at home. If we don't address the issue of values and attitudes from home and in the private space, in communities, in families, we will never address the issue of violence, especially gender-based violence in South Africa. Two, I want to comment on the lady who is wearing the blue jacket. Yes. She talked about inclusive communities and inclusive economies, and I really want to echo that sentiment, because as much as I'm here to talk about Sonke's work in engaging men and boys, and Nwabisa's talking about positive parenting and dealing with children, I really want to echo my colleague here from Slum Dwellers that the violence is disproportionate. It's communities of color. After, as black and brown communities in South Africa, after the spatial nature of apartheid, they continue to suffer disproportionately from crime, violence, and underdevelopment, which was a deliberate policy of the apartheid government. And unless we address the fact that spatially our cities create black disadvantaged areas and white affluent developed areas, we will never address the issue of violence or any other issue in South Africa, quite frankly. So I want to echo the issue of addressing the structural issues that drive violence, because that is absolutely essential. As much as dealing with children, as much as a charity begins at home, we must deal with the structures that lead, especially black and brown women, to be subject to multiple forms of violence due to very basic things, such as having to wake up to get a taxi at 4 o'clock in the morning in a dark area. So I really want to echo those sentiments. Then you also talked about consequences, and this feeds into a discussion. Since we have someone here from government, I'm sorry, I'm going to be devil's advocate now. We're speaking about consequences. Where are the consequences for police officers who do not comply with laws that exist right now? Let's forget about the National Strategic Plan. But laws that exist right now that require certain things to be followed, that require victims to be treated with care and dignity, that require police to investigate when something is reported, that require our courts to have, in the Eastern Cape, we have this issue of a sexual offences court in a rural part of Eastern Cape. There's only one magistrate which is rotating. So when you have an issue of gender-based violence, it takes forever to get resolved. So as much as we can talk about how communities need to come and play their part, government needs to play its part. Where are the consequences for not following the Constitution and the laws of this country? Where are the consequences? We can talk about drafting new plans, budgeting, but where are the consequences for people who are not accountable for not following the laws of this country right now, today?
So thank you for that. I'm going to reframe your question and say that should be part of the action plan, is consequences for non-enforcement, and maybe stricter consequences in addressing that issue. So we need to wrap up, and I know Mr. Rapier wants to have the last word, so can we move on to our next two panelists, please? If you want to say something, just be brief, please.
Even once again, I want to comment about what this lady said about children behaving in front of their parents, but when they are outside, they're not behaving. Well, and she spoke about corporal punishment. Well, corporal punishment is good, but we are abusing it, we are overusing it. So what we need now is to create recreation facilities where learners will show off their talent. A learner cannot be good academically, so what is it that he should do or she should do? We must make facilities where they will participate and show their talents. We can make music, dance clubs, drama, and so on, where people can show off their talent, because now they are lost. They don't know what to do. They will end up creating violence and so on in order to provide for their living. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So from the most vulnerable group of people, the most marginalized, we will continue supporting that people, engaging ESCOM to replace the bulbs. We can't wait for government, we can't wait for a councillor, we can't wait for the municipality. They've identified the problem, they said what is needed, we will support them to do that. We will support the youth in naming the streets in Orange Farm. We're not going to allow 750 streets for 40 years to be unnamed. We don't care what council says. We will support the youth in building a youth recreation center. We will find the funding, because if we wait for government, the youth will end up in the cells. So the general consensus is we can't expect government to do everything for us. We know what the problem is. We know there's a potential solution. We find the resources and do it. And someone said they will find us on the way. They're going to find us on the way. As an organization, we built 15, 20, 30,000 houses in this country. Government owes us 80 million rand. They will find us on the way to pay us the 80 million. So the communities cannot wait for government to do everything for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I don't know if there are any pressing comments. Mr. Rapia, do you want to have the last word before we close?
I think Melanie's provoking me just to say something. I just want to raise one. There's 3 points. The issue about we have a responsibility to monitor the implementation of Domestic Violence Act by the South African Police Service. So you should hold us responsible to make sure that the work which we do, it's actually making a difference. And there's a project now which we, after assessing and find that they are not properly implementing the Domestic Violence Act, we are now re-looking into how it's discipline being meted out in the South African Police Service. So we will be coming up to address that issue. There is also a project which comes out of the White Paper on Safety and Security, which we have started to develop the business plan. The National Center for Crime and Violence Prevention, which should be established in the presidency, and also linking up with the Premier's offices. And it actually goes well with what the women have done and refused that we are not leaving the union building until the president addresses us. Because the issues of dealing with the integrated way to implement the white paper cannot be done by one department. You need the presidency actually driving that process and all the departments being held accountable to that. And we're in the final stages of actually developing that the business case. Our anti-gang strategy, which we are implementing, it's a reflection of what is required in terms of the white paper on safety and security. And I think as we go in terms of the action plans, we need to also look into some of the things that needs to be done in terms of that strategy and make sure that we hold everyone who is responsible, because it's not only the police in there. You need social development, you need the schools, you need those who are dealing with border control and so on, to make sure that we deal with the anti-gangsterism in our country. Thank you.
Thank you. So I know Nwabisa is desperate to say something, but Mr. Weiss has to leave us. And I have to hand over now to, unless he exercises some discretion, to give you 1 minute. Can I give her a minute? 30 seconds. Nwabisa, I'm timing you. 30 seconds.
Thank you so much. So this is what I wanted to share with you. So the NSP writing is in draft 1. It's gone to the provinces. And here is the prevention strategy that I wanted to share with you that has gone there. It is one that says that we must prioritize social norms programming in order to prevent violence from taking place in the first place or from reoccurring. But at the same time, prioritizing psychosocial care and health services for victims of gender-based violence and femicide. And this must take place at the same time with the primary prevention component. And the last strategy being ensuring that there is accountability through the criminal justice system. So that's what's gone forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for that. So I do not have an opportunity to have the last word, but I think we need to read the white paper because everything that I have said that I think has been said here has been addressed in that. And it looks like there is complete synergy and alignment with the National Strategic Plan. So the white paper is available on the Civilian Secretariat and the Safer Spaces website. Is the draft NSP available? Consult document. Here. And the Department of Women. Okay, so that's also available, and I think if anyone is interested, I think Safer Spaces can post the program for the provincial consultations that is available. So we urge you to look at those documents, and there is a draft implementation framework, which I'm sure Bilkis will say more on. But I'm going to now call on the country director for GIZ and Ms. Bilkis Omar, the chief director for policy and research at the Civilian Secretariat, to give us their final comments and wrap up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was playing the bad guy now, interrupting your conversation, but I can assure you that phase 3 of our VCP project has just started. Yeah? So we will have more forums, more opportunities, especially at least within the framework of our project, to continue this conversation and these dialogues, because that's important. That's really important to talk to each other about these serious issues in this serious way you have done on the panel. I would like to compliment you on that. Yeah, I have the honor to wrap up this day, and in preparation I asked Terence whether he could give me a couple of key messages he would like me to convey to you now at the end of this day. And then he said, oh no, don't worry. Just be there and listen and experience what is happening, and then you will find something. Something will be in your mind to tell the audience. And of course he was right, and there's so much in my mind that I would need to stretch the moderators' patience again. So just a few snapshots. First of all, there are so many initiatives, so many people, like-minded, engaged people who are partnering with us in this project. Just think about the marketplace. Think about these many, I don't know, 10, 15 stalls we could see this afternoon. This is a big privilege to have such a base of partnership for such a project. I would like to thank you. I know the official vote of thanks is to you, Bilkis, but this makes me confident that we go together with you and even many other partners through a successful third phase. Second snapshot, the panel. To me, it was made very, very clear from all your different perspectives and your views, the dimension and the seriousness of violence and crime for this country. Violence and crime destroys, period. Destroys everything, destroys lives, destroys families, destroys society, destroys women, girls, men, destroys an economy. I was also very glad, Secretary, that you mentioned that. Yeah? So violence and crime prevention is not a nice to have, and I think all of you know that much better than I do. Yeah? I just would like to stress that and encourage all of you to convey that message within your responsibility, within your networks, within your contacts. Violence and crime destroys this country. Yeah. And I'm becoming a big friend of this country. I don't want to have this country being destroyed. Yeah. Third snapshot. It was a performance of the junior commissioners. I was sitting there, and you know, I'm one of those cool, calm, and collected Northern Europeans. Yeah. We have the saying of certain tribes in our country, they go down to the basement to laugh, yeah, because they're embarrassed to show their emotions in public. So maybe I'm one of those. And then I saw your performance, and I became a little bit, a bit scared. Well, what is this? Yeah, this is more than powerful. It looked to me almost violent. Yeah, this is really exactly. Yeah, this is this. Yeah, and but then, and thanks to you that you didn't stop right away. You carried on quite a while, yeah? And this gave me the opportunity to reflect on that too. And I said, yeah, this is the power you need. Yeah, this is the power you need to fight violence and crime in this country. So carry on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Weiss. I'm a content person, and it's been a long journey with the white paper for the Civilian Secretariat and myself personally as well. So I should say one or two things apart from just reading the script I've been given or I've prepared. So thank you very much. Your passion in today's discussion, Secretary, we need them on our journey to piloting the implementation of the white paper on safety and security. We are policy drafters, so it's difficult, but we are facilitating implementation of this white paper, and we'd like all of you to be part of this process with us. And I'm saying this with my boss's permission, by the way, and I won't get fired. But yeah, so there's something, I want to be provocative because Melanie was, there was a discussion on private security. So we have 500,000 private security in the country, 193,000 police, and 19,000 social workers. So those are huge numbers, and it's wrong. So you reminded me when you discussed social work and policing that we have structural issues that are big, and we need to address this. But let me now do my job. So thank you. It's my privilege to be here today as part of the co-chair of the VCP Steering Committee, to thank you all for attending. GIZ, you always deliver some wonderful events. Lego, I never thought I'd see Lego at an event. So thank you for that. And then our most valued invited guests and partners from our government institutions, civil society, and a special mention to those who travel from Cape Town, Eastern Cape, and eThekwini. Thank you for gracing our event. And you have to stay over tonight, I'm assuming. Mention Melanie, thank you very much. Incidentally, Melanie was a drafter of our white paper on safety and security. So when she talks from a very informed point of view. So when she talks, and her responses were so because she's done such research on it. So Melanie, thank you once again. We're happy to have you on this journey with us. It hasn't ended. Dr. Shai, Advocate Madomisa, forgive me if I'm pronouncing your names wrong, Ms. van Rensburg, Mr. Rapia, my boss, Mr. Ampofo Auntie, is that right? And Mr. Selomo. Thank you very much for being here for us and for that discussion and the passion that you showed. Temba Fosi, unfortunately, wasn't here today. He's been a partner with us for a very long time on this white paper, and we'd like Ashley, who is not here, we'd like to just thank him in his absence. He wasn't able to make it, but he's been a truly good resource for us and partnering with me. Incidentally, he's also the co-chair of the VCP steering committee. We'd also like to appreciate the following people for making this day such a success. Ms. Isabel Fowler, thank you for your tireless and impeccable support, making sure that everything came together well today, and for the logistical support. Mr. Paul Daniels, the art director at Strings Communication, for the beautiful designs. It was an awesome display. Our printers, Minuteman, Gerard and Danki Sneyman. Oriel and her entire team from 012 Central, thank you for the wonderful venue and for enduring all the demands that everybody's made on you. Our partners from the German Embassy, Dr. Weiss, Mr. Christian Groen, who's not here, he was here earlier. Welcome to South Africa and looking forward to working with you. Diane is not here as well. Thank you very much for the support she's provided us. Our Gauteng Junior Commissioners, thank you Karabo, Sanele, Refilwe and Botsoko. Thank you Zwei for scripting and directing this wonderful performance. Where is Zwei? Yeah. Oh, that's very good. Allow me to mention and extend our sincere appreciation and acknowledgement to Terence and your team, Tulani, Joan, Amadul Setse. I don't know who else I'm missing out, but to you guys, it's always so good to work with you. And like I said earlier, very interesting events. And we're always stealing their ideas. We come to the event and we go back and we duplicate the event. So, and then if I didn't thank anybody, please forgive me. It's not deliberate, but thank you all for attending. It's been such a wonderful day. It's nice to be out of the office and in this wonderful venue. So thank you very much. Before you go, please, we have gifts for our panelists. So Tulani, can you do the honor? Ms. van Rensburg, thank you very much. You want?
At least I got something to do.
Oh, shame.
What are we making now?
Okay.
Chocolate.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it feels like a book.
It's okay. Yes, it's fine.
Okay, thank you everybody. Just to remind you, there is a networking session, so please don't leave straight away. You can veer to your right if you would like to join us for a drink and a snack. Thank you.
People, we want you to loosen up a bit. You've been sitting there for, we don't know how many minutes, so we want you to loosen up. The time Ben Kuluma about the young people's trend, this is what we're talking about. We're not going to be formal. Can you start? Can you join us?
Engwanola kia murata machita. Engwanola kia mu. Stand up. Engwanola. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Engwanola kia murata machita. Engwanola kia murata machita. Elom tuana nyamutan No. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.